Get this baby out.
Love you so much. Oh, you're looking at me. I love you. I gave birth on the day that I hit 42 weeks. No woman willingly waits that long. In case you're wondering, what's she talking about? Well, I had a baby recently, 3 months ago now. And it was honestly a beautiful, surreal experience. It wasn't something that I planned for or expected. I mean, the way it panned out. It's not that I didn't plan for the pregnancy. If you want to find out more about the pregnancy, do check the description box and you'll see a link to the video. It's been 3 months, so a lot of the details are quite hazy. So if you see me looking down a lot, I'm referring to my notes because I wrote down notes because I want to be able to share in a concise and easy to follow manner because I tend to ramble. Around 37 weeks, the doctor had started talking about an induction. And I was just like, why are you talking about induction now? Like, it was like, oh, your baby's big, you're going to have a big baby and all of that. Anyway, I had been doing a lot of research and a big baby, I don't think should be a reason for an induction. And, these days, medical professionals intervene in the process, in this process that's supposed to be quite natural. And from what I understand, now not everybody's going to agree, intervention leads to more intervention. I read this book called Hypnobirthing by Siobhan Miller, and it was honestly one of the most empowering books I ever read about just having a baby in general, although it didn't quite describe pain, which I will get to in a minute. But it was such an empowering book, knowing what your rights are as a pregnant person, because sometimes the doctors can, force you. It can be quite forceful tone to get you to do an induction. Anyway, I didn't want to do an induction because my desire was to have my baby naturally, and I really wanted to have a baby naturally. And I knew that the moment you start intervening in that process, it leads to more intervention. So I told my midwife about this, and my midwife, suggested, that I start natural processes. First of all, she asked me to start harvesting colostrum, that, stimulating the breasts and all of that could eventually lead to a contraction, which I did. Nothing happened. Spoiler alert. So we went through that entire process. I didn't want to be induced. Eventually, on the 30th of November, I went in for a CTG, and I was told that, after scanning me for over an hour, I was told that the baby's heart rate had dropped. Oh no, sorry. I was told that the baby's heart rate was too fast or too high, and I might have to be wheeled in for an emergency C-section. I was like, wait. I just came here for a scan, voluntarily, and you're telling me this. So I didn't know what to do. So what I did, I just lifted my hands up to God, and I just said, I completely surrender in this process. Just, take the wheel, Lord, if you will. And as I praised and I prayed, baby just calmed down, and everything was back to normal, and they said that I could eventually go home. So eventually on the 6th of December, I was at home, still waiting. I mean, bear in mind that my due date was on the 27th of November. And I was there 6th of December, nothing had happened. I didn't have a show, I didn't have anything. So I was there just waiting, hoping that this baby will come. And honestly, waiting for your baby to come is quite frustrating. But one thing I should mention is I feel like the 40-week mark is an estimation. It's not a precise date. So sometimes I don't know why, I would say you're not late just because you hit 40 weeks and you've not had a baby. A doctor told me that, it's like being on a highway. With doctors, they try to reduce the risk. Being on a highway, you have a higher risk of having an accident as opposed to if you were at home. So they want to get you off the highway of pregnancy and just with your baby safe in your arms, because anything can happen during that period, and it's such a delicate, sensitive period. And that's why they push for the induction. And I can understand from the medical professional's perspective, because they do this every day. But for the woman who is giving birth, I mean, it's your first or second or maybe only experience at doing this. It's a different experience. You want to have a beautiful experience, and the truth is, a lot of the time, not having a great experience or birth experience, having a traumatic birth, has been linked to things like postpartum depression and, you know, just blues and just everything in general. So I think having and preparing for a great birth is so important. So anyway, at this point, I had written down my birth notes, and, you know, that I was going to share with the midwives when the time came. And on my birth notes, I had written that I wanted, that in case of maybe like an emergency C-section, this is what I wanted: delayed cord clamping, you know, I wanted skin to skin, you know, all of those things. Anyway, I wrote all of that just to, you know, cover everything that could potentially happen during the birth process. So back to the 6th of December, I started having like really sharp pains. I couldn't understand. It felt like a grinding pain down there. I knew it was not labor, because labor is rhythmic, it's in waves. And this was not labor. So I was like, what is happening? The pain was so intense that I had to get myself checked into the hospital again. And this time, you know, I was checked. They did the assessment to get the Bishop score. If you don't know what the Bishop score is, the Bishop score gives you an indication as to whether an induction will work. So for instance, a Bishop score of 8 is more likely, it means that your cervix or whatever, your body is more favorable to an induction, and that if an intervention is, you know, happens, you're more likely to respond to it. Because what typically happens is, when the woman's body is not ready, I'm not an expert or a medical professional, I'm just saying stuff based on what I've researched. When a woman's body is not ready and you intervene in that process, what eventually ends up happening is she will more than likely need a C-section, because the body just wasn't ready. So the Bishop score kind of gives them an indication as to whether you're ready or not. At this point, my Bishop score was still 3, when the ideal Bishop score was supposed to be 8. So I was still very far. I had not dilated at all. And this was way past my due date. I was 41 weeks at this point. So I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I obviously started panicking. I was like, okay, I'm just going to relax and chill. And then everybody started texting me, oh, have you had the baby? Have you had the baby? You know, that question, please, anybody who you know, if you know somebody's due date, don't ask them, has the baby come yet? Like, just don't ask, because it puts a lot of stress and pressure on the woman. So try not to ask that question. Anyway, so I checked into the hospital, they did the checks, found out nothing had happened. So I went back home, and they finally booked my final induction date for the 8th of December. And I was desperate. Because I had heard about how painful inductions were. I was just like, no, I don't want an induction. I hope to have this baby naturally. So I Googled everything. I Googled pregnancy inducing exercises. There was nothing on this planet that I did not Google. I did all the pregnancy inducing exercises. I walked up and down the stairs for minutes. I won't say hours. I did everything. Then eventually I came upon this cocktail, midwife's brew, that was potentially going to help induce labor within hours or seconds. And I was so confident that it could work. It was like a mix of castor oil, orange, apricot juice, and honestly, it's nasty. I tried it. It did not work. I threw it all up. Like, I threw everything up. The 7th of December, and I was there. Midwife's brew had not worked, nothing. But something happened. I finally saw my mucus plug had, started. I saw the show. I was like, oh my God, I have the show. It means things can happen at any time. And then I called up the hospital and they were like, well, when you have the show, it doesn't necessarily mean the baby is coming in 24 hours. You can have the show and the baby will still not arrive like after a week, within a week. I was like, oh my God, okay. That's not the news I was hoping to hear, but okay. And they were like, you're coming in for your induction on the 8th, right? I was like, yeah. Okay, so I obviously had to face my fear and come in for the induction. Now, induction day rolls by, December 8th. I'm driven to the hospital and presented a couple of options, for the induction. One, the most natural method, which of course I chose, is the Foley's catheter, also known as the balloon. And the idea was, you put the balloon in, they inflate it, and that would kind of trigger the cervix to, open. And they said that once the Foley's whatever drops, that could help progress labor naturally. So I chose that method. I wasn't told that method is really painful. TMI, I started stooling and vomiting at the same time. Like my entire system it destabilized me completely. I was in so much pain and I was just like, what is happening? And then I was having contractions, which I now know were contractions, in waves. They would come every 10 minutes or so, and they continued throughout the night. They were quite manageable. They weren't too bad, but it was still quite a lot of pain. So I bent over, and mind you, this was COVID, so my husband was not allowed in with me after a certain time. So I was just there by myself, trying to manage through the pain and, hoping that this induction worked. Anyway, so by morning, I got up to use the bathroom. I did, and as I sat down, out it came with obviously quite a bit of blood. Sorry if I'm being a bit graphic. And they were like, oh, perfect. It means you're 3 centimeters now, because that's the size of the Foley's catheter. And I was like, okay, 3 centimeters. By the time they took it out, I felt so fine. Nothing was happening. And they were like, oh yeah, labor ward is really busy right now, so you're going to have to wait. So I was there waiting, and this was the 9th of December. So I was trying to pass time, and I was watching a movie, and around, I think it was 2 p.m, I decided to go for a walk to get things moving, because they told me that the more you walk, the baby's head will be on the cervix, we could trigger you to dilate faster and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, 2 p.m, I decided to go for a walk. I started walking around the hospital, and to kind of get things moving. I was even curb walking, and I was told that that curb walking could help. I tried everything to get myself get it going, and it did start. Labor actually started. So I'll say labor started around about 3 p.m, and I would feel this pain. I would feel it come in, and I'll be like, oh my god, it's coming. Then I'll bend over, because my husband was with me. I will be on his shoulder, and the wave will come and it will pass, and I'll walk again, and within 7 minutes and I was timing it. So I was like, oh, I hope this is it. This is, it's happening. This Foley's catheter thing worked. This natural induction. I don't have to use syntocinon. I think that's what it's called. The drip. The dreaded drip. So I was just there, hoping that everything would progress. Anyway, by the time I got back into the room, the pain had really escalated, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm in so much pain. And I told the midwife, and she was like, if you can still talk to me, you're not really there.
I felt calm and relaxed.
It's coming.
In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I was like, I've been going through this since 3 o'clock. What do you mean I'm not there? I was in so much pain, which I thought was so much pain at that time. And she was like, oh no, you're not there at all. She was like, when you're screaming for medication, that's when you're there. I was like, oh my god. But prior to this time, I had told my husband that no matter what, I want to be, progress through like the painkillers. Basically, I was telling him that I didn't want an epidural if I didn't need one. And I told him that, no matter what I say, don't give in. Just know that it's just my emotions speaking. You see, by afternoon, I tried going into the pool. Honestly, this hospital is so good. They ran me a bath. They brought my lights in for me to feel calm, and they asked me what aromatherapy I want, and they put like clary sage and jasmine in the bath. So I'm just about to have a bath, and I think that would be really calming and refreshing, and yeah. To help, I was trying to be all natural, go through the pain. This pain is not a joke. I was just like, what is this? It takes over your entire body. It's not a joke at all. So I think it was around maybe 7 p.m. thereabout, I had been going for about 6 hours. I think something like that. Forgive me if I missed the time. But I'd been going for about 6 hours, and at this point I was just like, Rotimi, which is my husband, I said, look, get them to give me the medication. I need the medication. He was like, Tora, remember you told me specifically. I said, forget what I told you. I need the medication. I was just like, just forget everything I told you. Because at this point, I was doing breathing exercises. 1, 2, 3. In 1. You see that thing? I was like, this is not going to work. This breathing through it is not working. This pain grips me to the point where I can't breathe. So I'm not doing this breathing anymore. I did Christian hypnobirthing. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to go through this, listening to scripture. Boy, at that point, I was just like, give me all the medication. I need gas and air. I need something. So they finally wheeled me into the labor ward, and they gave me gas and air. I'll be honest with you, everything from that point was a blur. So a lot of the things that I'm sharing now are things that I was told when I did like birth afterthoughts, because I really wanted to know what happened, and also things that my husband shared with me. And he told me that after I got the gas and air, I'm gonna insert a clip of me on gas and air. It was just, honestly, I was just talking a lot of rubbish. I like the epidural. I like the gas and air.
Okay.
Gas and air is nice. It takes the edge off. I know my words sound sloppy. I'm feeling a contraction right now, but I can cope.
Are you okay? Okay.
I like it.
I know you do.
I can cope with this.
Okay, I know you can cope.
I can cope.
I know you can cope, but I still have to read this to you. Okay?
Because earlier I told him, I was like, I can't manage without medication. I can't manage without anything. So when they finally gave me gas and air, I was like, you know what? It's painful, but this gas and air kind of takes the edge off. And he was like, oh yeah, okay, that's good. I'm really happy to hear this. Now, I've been going for a couple of hours, and it was time to break my waters, because they were like, we can't, keep doing this. We need to break your waters to kind of speed this process. Because at that point, I was still 3 centimeters dilated. Shocker. After all that pain. So I was like, oh my God, I'm still 3 centimeters dilated. That means we could be going for hours and hours. I was like, I don't know if I can cope with this pain, because I was just tired, exhausted. I was like, I can't do this. They broke the waters, and trust me, when they break the waters, it was like the pain went from 1 to 1,000. I was like, this gas and air is not working. Get me the epidural. they were like, oh, there's another medication we can give you, you know, based on your notes, you said you wanted to progress through. I was like, get me the epidural. Obviously I wasn't screaming like that, I don't know what I did, but I was like, just give me the epidural, give me something. And they were like, okay, maybe get the epidural. And I remember one of the midwives, at least I remember this because a lot of what happened then was really blurry. And she said to me, she said, nobody gets a price for going through pain without an epidural. Like, and I was like, true, nobody's gonna applaud you for not taking pain relief. Like, if you were going to take your tooth out, wouldn't you get pain relief? Like, so why do we women feel we can go through labor without pain relief? Like, there's a reason why pain relief exists. Like, if you don't feel pain, that's fine, but there's a reason why it exists, so that you don't have to feel that pain. Anyway, they tried to put the epidural in. Oh God, the lady tried 5 times, and each time she would pierce it through, it will grip my entire body. It felt like she was almost crushing my bone. I don't know how to explain it, but in my spine, I still remember that pain so well. It was a horrible feeling. I was just like, no, this is horrible. I was like, you're not doing this thing properly. You're not getting it right. So they got someone else in. At the 5th time, he finally got it in. They put the epidural in, and I was still in a lot of pain, but within about 30 minutes, it was like the fog cleared. Epidural is God's gift to mothers. Remember, at this time, they had broken my waters. Breaking your water puts you on a timer, so you have to have the baby within a couple of hours, I think 24 hours. So they decided to also speed things along by giving me syntocinon. And after giving me the drip, I mean, at this point, I kind of already knew. I was like, okay, what is happening? You know, I didn't want them to keep checking and, you know, assessing me to see how because that stuff is really painful. So they gave me the syntocinon drip, and just at that point, it was like, they were like, nothing is really happening here. Nothing is, like, you're not dilating further. And then baby's heart rate started to drop. They noticed the first drop, and my husband told me that they would start signaling, you know, he could see the look in their eyes. They were like, okay, it might be time for an emergency C-section. So look, I'm not against the C-section, right? But I know the downtime that comes, because I've had people have C-sections, and the C-section just has so much downtime. And I just I wanted to kind of just have the baby and get in the business of, like, taking care of my baby and not have to deal with healing from a major surgery, which is why I didn't want the C-section. Anyway, so you could see the look in their faces. It was like, this was fine, this was going to happen. And I think the heart rate dropped further again. And it was like, at this point, it became an emergency. Every time I think about that situation, I'm just always so, like, just because everything happened so fast. They came in and they just gave me a consent form. Oh, you have to sign this. We're wheeling you in. Gave my husband a change of clothes. Honestly, I don't remember. Everything was very hazy. I just remember being wheeled, like, in a hurry into a theater, and there were like over, I would say, 15 to 20 people there. And I remember just saying, what? There's so many people here. There's so many people here. And they were like, yeah, you're here for an emergency C-section. I was like, oh my God, okay. And then they gave me a spinal, I don't know, some medication in my spine, and they lay me down on the table, and they put the blue whatever to block my view. And my husband, I was just like, where is he? You know, everything was just so hazy. And the next thing I remember was me saying I couldn't breathe because I was lying flat on my back. And obviously, being pregnant, you know, you don't lie flat on your back. I don't know what it was, but I just felt like I couldn't breathe. Maybe it was the panic, but you know, they were monitoring my vitals and they saw that I could breathe, but I was panicking, so they gave me oxygen. I asked for music, and for one of the whatever, thought it was an absurd requests. I was just like, I kind of just have music. So I had worship music playing in the background. My husband was there, so was finally there, so he played the worship music. And you know, I was hoping that even though I was having an emergency C-section, they would follow my plan and, you know, bring baby to me. I'd have skin to skin, you know. I really wanted that, you know, that experience. And all of a sudden, I just felt like I heard a baby crying.
My voice and my instinct.
And I was like, whose baby is that? Is that my baby? And then my husband came and he was like, our baby, he's here, he's perfect. I just cut the cord. I was like, and I kept thinking, where's my baby? Like, I was just there lying down. I was like, I want to hold my baby, but I just didn't, nothing happened. And he was like, baby's perfect. I was like, okay. Like, where is he? I couldn't process at that point. So I was eventually wheeled again into another room, and I eventually was given my baby, and God, it's such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful moment when that baby is finally on your chest. I remember Ayo being put on my chest, and I also remember just shaking. I didn't know you know, it made you shake. The medication, the after effect of the medication made you shake that much. I remember just shaking so visibly, but I remember that feeling of Ayo on my chest. It was beautiful. Beautiful. I'm saying this to anybody who is probably like me, wanting to plan, wanting to have her ducks in a row, and wanting life to, you know, life doesn't really follow a prescribed plan. I did everything possible to not have a C-section. I'm so grateful that I got to experience even having a child, because based on what I was told, it was quite a fatal situation, like what was happening with baby on the inside. And you know, he wasn't coping well with the contractions, and they needed to take him out urgently. So I'm just so happy that Ayo is here with us, happy for that intervention, even though I didn't want intervention. I'm so grateful for that. And you know, if you're a planner like me, stay flexible. You know, there's this thing, you know, everybody says, oh, give birth like the Hebrew women, and that's so beautiful. And, you know, let it be to you according to your faith. But also, stay flexible in your heart, because sometimes life just doesn't go according to plan sometimes. And, you know, it's okay to still embrace the beauty in that, in things not going to plan. And yeah, that's my birth story. That's how I delivered Ayo into the world. By the way, Ayo, if you don't know what it means, Ayo means joy, child of joy. I wish he could make a cameo, but he's with his dad. He's sleeping right now. He's not making us sleep, but he's brought so much joy into our lives, and having a baby is such a beautiful thing. I promise not to turn this channel into a baby channel. I promise. But you know, I thought it was important that I share my birth story with you guys, and yeah, I will catch you guys later. Bye.